Whether your beer is in a bottle, can, or glass, kick back and relax. It's Better on Draft.
And we are live. This is Better on Draft, the Michigan Series, episode number 5. My name is Ken. Thank you so much for joining us. It is a great middle of January. It was snowing today here in Michigan, so hopefully you guys are driving safe, getting home safe for those of you who are still working in an office. I might as well ask Dan, what's the weather like down there in Phoenix? Just bring it on.
Beautiful 81 and sunny today.
81 and sunny. Well, what are you drinking? Let's get that over with too.
I'm going with the good old God, I keep wanting to say screwdriver. It's vodka soda. I don't know why screwdriver stuck in my head.
I was gonna say that's a very, very light looking screwdriver over there.
Yeah, that's probably how I would make one too. And of course got the Bloody Mary going as well.
Dan just drinking the straight vodka today. Nick, what's going on? What are you drinking over there? You gotta unmute yourself.
Darn it! See, you do all these virtual meetings for work, and you never learn. Whatever. Well, I was about to drink this vanilla latte milkshake stout from Rochester Mills, and it didn't really age very well, so we'll see about that. But then I got this unmarked bottle from one of our guests today, or from our guests today. I don't know what it is.
You don't know what it is?
The stout or the sour?
That was from what you gave him, Deven.
So it must be the stout because it's not a sour.
Nailed it.
Well, then it's not I was gonna say, hopefully it's not the stout if it's tasting like sour.
Yeah.
So Nick's
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say Nick's got the stout. Robert, what are you drinking over there?
Right now I am still going through a little bit of my dry January, and I've got a can of hop tea. But I'm going to pretty much avoid that dry January by opening up this peach sour that's here from our guest.
Well, welcome to damp January, that's for sure. Well, our guest, I've got the oatmeal stout myself that I cracked open, as well as, getting my Corona seltzer going, to clear the palate, get a little cherry in there. So we do have two guests from Arctic Circle Brewing, which is going to be an upcoming brewery here in Macomb County, Michigan. Why don't you guys introduce yourselves, tell us where you're located, and when's the goal for opening date?
So I'm Eric Lehman. I am the head of all things operations, marketing, back of house, all that kind of stuff.
And I'm Deven Sills. I'll be the brewer here for Arctic Circle Brewing Company. And you asked about the projected opening. That thing is such a fluid idea at these point in times. But we're fingers crossed, knock on wood, April.
Yeah, we're hoping for April.
Yeah.
How many taps are you planning on opening with in April?
Day one, we're shooting for at least 8.
Okay.
And given any sort of setbacks or anything going forward, I could flex either more or less. But we're going for 8.
What's the starting lineup look like?
A wide variety, right? We have a love for coffee beers, so we want to introduce a couple of our coffee stouts, so maybe one of those. Looking for one of the sours that really connect with people. Got to have the IPAs as well. We have what was that?
Sorry, no. Keep going.
Oh, and anything given the season may call for. So if we're looking at the spring, probably going to look for something that could be sessionable heading into the summer, and light and refreshing. So you might find a couple of fruited beers on the menu as well.
Now, before I pass it off to my cohorts to ask the questions that they've been wondering, the one thing I wanted to ask is why Arctic Circle?
All right. So growing up, back in high school, my parents' house was the hangout. The basement was always very cold. Even, wearing sweatshirts and sweatpants in the summertime. You basically would dress for the occasion. So we kind of dubbed that the Arctic Circle back in high school. So as Deven and I started home brewing, that was the first thing that came to mind was calling it Arctic Circle Brewing Company.
All right, I'm going to hand it off to Robert.
All right. So obviously you guys are still working on getting open, and I know being a new brewery definitely has all of its challenges. Obviously, none more so than what we've been going through for a better part of the last 10, 11 months now. And we're still not at a point where, everyone can just walk in and fill the seats. So I guess just let's talk about the planning that went into opening a brewery in the midst of a pandemic, and how you've been looking at the future post state sanctioned activities, because
Right.
COVID's never going in, is never going to go away. But tell us about working on opening during this pandemic, and the future, and how you're planning the future to look like as we start to get back to a place where we can be sort of normal.
So I guess like our story, as far as like Arctic Circle actually getting the ball rolling towards like actually opening a brewery, started long before like COVID was even like a thought, right? So like our business plan coming into it was fixed in a world where COVID didn't exist. Obviously, to your points before, that we had to do a little bit of pivoting, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, a lot of it came down to, obviously, we went through a pretty lengthy process in trying to get everything lined up from a construction standpoint, getting a lease agreement signed, getting something set up so that it was, obviously COVID friendly, knowing that this was going to take, some time to get through and really do the construction. But in terms of the overall business, yeah, I mean, that was part of the reason that, we put together the Kickstarter, was to help and raise a little bit more funds so that we can kind of adjust. So, obviously we're going to be more open to canning, a lot of stuff, especially up front, because we know that, to your point, not being able to pack the tap room, it puts us in a little bit of a difficult situation. Where we are here in Chesterfield, being in a strip mall, we don't have the benefit really of a big outdoor space, so that, hinders us as well. So I think for us, I mean, that was kind of what we're doing, is just continuing to, watch the ordinances and how things are moving forward. Hoping that we get back to some level of capacity by the time we open, and then shifting, a lot more to focusing on, possibly canning as much as we can to be able to offer to-go options, something that we weren't looking to do when we first initially were working on the plan.
Right. And kind of going into those like ordinances, as you just mentioned, obviously with us going through all of this, I guess I'm kind of curious from your standpoint, how quick or how slow has it been in terms of getting, permits and things of that nature from the city and the county to get to this point?
Yeah, luckily for us, we actually had all of our licensing and stuff basically approved before COVID hit. We got on that really early, trying to make sure, because, for us, the thought was, if, knowing that we were going to be getting a white box space, construction and build out for us wasn't going to take too much time. So we focused a lot on getting all those licensing and stuff up front. So we were actually able to knock that all out. And
like before 2019.
Yeah, before we even hit the clock on 2020. Yeah. So we were ahead of the game. We know that that's sometimes a holding pattern for a lot of places, and we didn't want to be in that boat. So it was good for us to get ahead of the game there.
Mm-hmm. Nice. All right, I'm going to pass the rock over to Nick here, so I think he's got a question.
So, East Sider, you guys are on the East Side. Yeah. Did you grow up on the East Side?
I was going to say, hold up a sec, because Deven was growing up on the West Side, so you got to watch that East Side.
Okay, well, hey, no disrespect to the West Side, but why Chesterfield? And the reason why I asked that is because, I grew up on the East Side, almost up against the southern border of Macomb County. So for those that are, not local to the Tri-County area in Michigan, you have Detroit, which is in Wayne County, and then literally like 10 minutes north, you hit Macomb County, and then you're all up along Lake St. Clair and all that. Not a lot of breweries really in Macomb County. I have Sherwood right down the road from me. Not a lot in Macomb. So why Macomb County and why Chesterfield? What was the draw there, other than maybe the location?
So like we said before, like we met in high school, right? So like when I moved from the west side of Detroit, parents moved out to Macomb, and that's where some of our formidable years were at. And as we became friends, this is where we almost planted roots as like not just friends but family, right? Mm-hmm. So this is a lot of planning based around. We have a community here that we know also will support us, and also given a landscape of lack of breweries in the area, it only made sense to fill a void for the people, right?
Yeah. you talked about you talked about backers, supporters locally. Let's talk about the Kickstarter for a moment. I'm looking at it right now.
From the
You
west
guys
side of
have
Detroit.
45 days to go before the Kickstarter campaign ends, and you've already broken the goal that you had set out, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah.
One of the things that caught my attention is Beta Test Tuesday. Can you
Alright.
talk
Yeah,
about what
yeah.
Beta Test Tuesday is at Arctic Circle?
So Beta Test Tuesday came as like an idea when we first got the ball rolling as like, oh, we want to open up a brewery, but we were just home brewers. And like one thing that you end up losing as home brewers is the actual hobby side of it and like the small batch ability. And that's where it birthed the idea of Beta Test Tuesday, which we just actually ended up changing the name just a little bit to Tuesday Beta Test, but that's not here nor there. So we wanted to stick close to that homebrew roots and be able to provide a consistent Tuesday small batch release where like you can get really creative with it because we don't have like the restriction of a tap that's going to sit there for weeks on end. So and something that's important to us as well is the same thing that you guys do with this podcast is to have an additional side with the visuals. Talk about the beer, just don't let it be a standard still photo for people to hit the like on. Let them hear from the people who actually had a hand in creating it,
Okay. All right.
And so in reference to, what you mentioned on the Kickstarter, so actually one of the rewards that we had put on there was actually to be able to be a part of actually one of the filming. So each week when we launch, Deven and I are going to be trying the beer, just giving a quick, 30-second to a minute video, just kind of walking them through. We got some of the here.
That shirt, I love the shirt.
Yeah. So as part of that, we figured we'd offer up as kind of a unique reward to be a part of, behind the scenes. You can come here for the taping, get that first taste, and just something unique that we thought we could offer,
and be
folks.
Part of the blue couch,
I mean, I see there's several pictures of the blue couch on the Kickstarter campaign. So if you, for those listening, find the Kickstarter campaign, you're going to see the big blue couch that they're currently sitting on. You had mentioned you guys were home brewers before you took on this adventure of opening a brewery. What was your first homebrew? Do you guys remember? Did you do it together? Or you guys did it separately?
Yeah.
What was your first homebrew? What was it?
Honestly, it came out of, it was Selection Sunday for NCAA basketball fans out there. It was Selection Sunday 2015. Just decided that day that, we had been talking about it for years and said, hey, you know what? We're going to go ahead and we're going to brew a beer today. So we went up to the homebrew supply store over in Warren, picked ourselves up all the equipment we need. And actually it was funny. We're like, yeah, let's do, we grabbed just, one of the box kits and grab some grapefruit peel off the wall. And we're like, hey, we'll do a grapefruit IPA. That sounds good. And as we were checking out, somebody in line who was, a home brewer kind of had said, hey, what would be great in there is if you throw some, actual grapefruit and oranges into the fermenter and it'll really, get you that flavor. And we were like, oh, cool, thanks. Great idea. And the first one you do, of course, it's always good. It's the box, it's the box setup. So it's pretty straightforward. But, it seemed like from then we kind of just kind of settled in on this, what we wanted to do.
I tell you what, and I want to make sure everyone feels what I went through, because the first one I did from Northern Brewer, I did the amber. And if you follow the instructions step by step, everything's perfect. Well, I finally did my own second brew, which is an English mild, and the amount of things that I did not do properly is hysterical. And I am curious how it's going to taste. Rob's got a bottle. I've got one in my fridge that I'm going to crack, because it is. So first, instead of using a tube to the bottom of the second for the bottling bucket, I just let it free drop in there. So obviously it got a little oxidized. And then I didn't add any priming sugars in there. So I wound up buying, because you can buy tablet priming sugars. So I wound up, after having capped them, bought those. They came 2 days later, uncapped, threw them in, recapped.
Nice.
So either it's going to be, which it won't be, but it could be either the best way to have ever made an English mild, and I'm going to sell this recipe for $1 million.
Oh, geez.
Or it's going to taste like crap and Rob's going to hate me.
Are you going to open this tonight?
Yes, I will. Rob
nice.
will. Rob's going to do it.
I just might, but now that I'm thinking about it, this might actually be worse than me thinking it's okay to just simply throw in Oreos into the fermenter and see that that's going to turn out well. So,
It's not that simple.
um,
Right?
yeah.
Before we get to Dan, because I know Dan's got a question, talk to me about this oatmeal stout, because this, when I think oatmeal stout, like this is exactly what I picture when I'm drinking. I don't want 800 other flavors. I don't want, cinnamon and marshmallow and chocolate and vanilla. Like I want it to taste just like this. So talk to me about making this beer.
It was just that. Like, I wanted a simple, true to style, 5% ABV oatmeal stout, and just one of those, like, if there ever could be like a sessionable stout sort of an idea, that would be kind of it for me. And I know you mentioned like you don't want all the additional flavors, but what's a good oatmeal bowl of oatmeal without like a couple of fixins, So I do like the idea of down the road possibly pitching some additional adjuncts at it, but as a base model, like I wanted it to be something that could stand alone.
I tell you what, we did the Untapped year in review where it tells you all the beers you drink and what your favorite style is. And on our show over the last year, the Imperial Double Stout was our #1 beer style. And finding a sessionable stout is something that I think is lacking in the industry. As something really, really major. Dan, you're shaking your head. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
What is it like out there in Arizona? As I kind of like segue into you and your question.
Well, as far as stouts go, like
it's
a sessionable
stout, yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty hard. That one that I normally, the wet nose or the wet snout peanut butter stout that I drink,
Yeah.
it is about the only one that you can find. If you want a stout, it's going to be packed with 10, 15 different additives, and it's going to be 12 to 15% as far as ABV goes.
That was actually that wet snout is the #1 beer that we drank the most of on this show, by the way. Fun fact.
That's kind of funny.
And you can find all that stuff, guys, if you follow our social medias. If you're on the video, which you can find us live 7 p.m. Eastern on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Facebook and YouTube, that's Better on Draft is the name. Twitch, that's BOD Podcast, BODPODCAST. And, of course, betterondraft.tv. You can find us live 7 p.m. Eastern. Sorry, just got to get that in there. Dan.
For sure.
All about the plugs. Got to get the plugs in there.
Every time, absolutely. So I'm kind of curious about this. I don't know if anyone else on the show has, but I used to live out here with a mutual friend of ours in the area where you're opening the brewery about 21 years ago in a pretty big apartment complex, actually just east of there. I'm curious if you guys are going to take an approach, because what I remember, of course, it could have changed. Those weren't really craft beer drinkers that lived in the area. Are you going to take an approach like Cellarman's, RIP, used to do, and kind of make a couple of beers targeted towards the community to try and get them in there? Or what are your plans to target the area? Because this is brand new. No one, like we've talked about, it's a craft beer wasteland. What are you going to do to bring in the people to try your stuff and hopefully get hooked to it?
So it's important to like have one of those, like whether it be like a Kolsch or a craft pilsner or a lager itself, but something that is like a direct descendant of like one of your domestic beers, right? So you have to be able to play that card, and that is important to have that on tap as well, because for every group of 4 people that come in here that actually want craft beer, one of them might not want anything that we have on the board except for like the Kolsch or a lager.
Are you going to be doing anything other than beer there?
No, there's no kitchen here. Actually, we share a dividing wall with the Little Caesar, so like that'll be our main kitchen.
Nice. You got White Castle across the street.
Yeah.
There's actually a lot at that, we're 23 Gratiot, that 94 area. So
I hate to interrupt, but I wanted to make sure to follow up with the question, because I was more referring to cider, mead, wine, distilled, sodas. Like, is it just going to be beer and beer only?
Yeah, just be craft beer initially. Like we would love to entertain the wine early on. Ciders hasn't been anything I've actually delved into at this point, but wine is definitely on the table, no pun intended, for the near future.
Okay. Well, mind if I jump in on this one?
Go for it, Rob.
For sure.
All right. So obviously, as you just pretty much said, you've got the Little Caesars that's next door that pretty much will be your kitchen. And as kind of pointing to Nick's point is that, there's a lot of corporate eateries that are around in that area. I mean, you've got that Little Caesars, You've got the Italian McDonald's that is Olive Garden, and you've got the upscale McDonald's, otherwise known as Applebee's.
Right.
And you've got that Buffalo Wild Wings that's there in the strip mall right next to you. So I guess with all of that is being around, especially with the Buffalo Wild Wings, where they have their craft beer as well. That how are or I guess what do you are planning to do to kind of try and get some of them over, or try to build that client base that says, hey, this stuff is better, that we can sit here and enjoy beer and we don't necessarily have to worry about food. Or really, I mean, and actually with the food, are you planning on doing something like a take-in where, like you said with your kitchen, that with Little Caesars, that people can just start bringing food in?
Yeah, I mean, so we're definitely going to offer up, people being able to bring food in. Another thing that we're entertaining, obviously, is the idea of food trucks. I mean, that's a big thing with breweries, having the ability to give you like a unique thing that you can't really get anywhere else. So that's part of it. But I mean, yeah, Buffalo Wild Wings, I think part of our, thought process there was more or less just being different. So at first, it was like, oh, well, people are like, oh, are you going to have like tons of TVs in there? And it's like, well, no, I mean, we're going to have them. It's a necessity this day and age. You want people to be able to stay and watch a game, but I'm not here to set up to have, NFL Sunday Ticket and have every game on. Just creating a little bit of a different experience. And that's hopefully what we're able to take away is, or even that, I mean, to the point of like you were talking about with dinner, I mean, I'll just take you if you want to have a couple beers before or a couple beers after you leave Buffalo Wild Wings, we're here for you.
Okay. And I just cracked open, since the other guys have cracked open the oatmeal stout, I just cracked open the peach goza. And as many people who have listened in the history will know, that I am typically have not been a fan of sours.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this, I would say, on a scale of like Sour Patch Kids to the ridiculous size, the 2-pound lemon heads.
Yeah.
I would probably put this like right just above the like the Sour Patch Kids. It's just like the like tiniest amount of sour that just tells me that it's there.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying. So I guess before I just like give my description of it, I actually want you to give your description of it.
So like what I found in like the home brewing time was the use of green tea in some of the sours actually helps to like Trojan horse that either the tang or the actual bitterness or sourness that hits you in the glands, where it makes it a lot more palatable for the people. So and obviously then paired with peaches, you now have this combination of flavors. You have fruit, a little bit of sour, and then you have the herbalness that is the green tea, that all collectively gives you like a rather refreshing experience. Whereas oftentimes the style can be kicking you in the throat a bit,
Yeah, I mean, I would pretty much, cut the lawns of everybody on the block drinking this, because
thank you.
It is.
Yeah, that's the idea. I mean, you get that a lot. Like your point of view, a lot of people have the same thing where it's like, if you feel like you're, back in the day with like the warheads, it's just not an enjoyable experience for your palate. So that's something that we've always kind of strived to with our sours, is finding that like delicate balance of, giving you a little bit of that, sweet to offset it.
Right. And like to your point, Robert, is like, yeah, we want to get someone who like is not interested at all. They've had one sour and it was just like too much for them. And always trying to give that sort of idea, the one that you're having now, and then present it in a way that it's palatable for more people. So you widen that cone a little bit.
Yeah, so definitely those that are not speciation or arc-light drinkers come with this. But I'll go back to Ken here.
I was gonna say, as a business plan, and I guess I kind of want your guys' opinion on this. Is it, you've mentioned a handful of times that you're making a lot of entry level beers, but can it be to a point where there's too many entry level beers and you guys aren't really testing the boundaries of the beers that you're making? Because the oatmeal stout, sessionable stout, you're gonna have your Kolsch, the sour is a little bit not punch you in the face like Jolly Pumpkin. Like where are we gonna start seeing you expand your wings a little bit?
So like obviously the big draw with a lot of the craft heads these days is like the big boozy stouts, and we have an entire line of coffee stouts that like pretty much just lends to that idea. The idea behind the series is, what if you went to New Orleans and you had coffee there from Cafe Du Monde? Now you turn that into a stout. Now you have a Arctic Circle in New Orleans stout where you bring it in at 10% using a ingredient that people knows about, and then you now present it in that way. Or we even have like an Indonesian version of it. What else? As far as we have a breakfast in Miami where you use Cuban coffee as like an imperial brown. So like those ideas, like kind of fishing towards outside of the box ideas.
It sounds like you're going to be doing a lot of the darker beers, but are you going to be hopping in? The pun was not intended, but it was
Oh, jeez.
hopping into the IPA realm of things.
Yeah, I mean we have we got a lot of different IPAs that we've done, whether it's more fruity stuff, New England style. One of the ones that we really like is it's called our Ognum. So it's a mango IPA with jasmine rice as kind of the base. So it gives it like a nice thicker mouthfeel in terms of the overall beer. So yeah, I mean we've the nice thing, like Deven mentioned earlier about being home brewers for 5 years, like we have, and doing such small batches. We've definitely gone even too far off the rails in terms of trying different things, because that's the beauty of only having whether it be 2.5 to 5 gallon batches. If it is really that bad, at the end of the day you don't necessarily have to drink it. We always end up probably drinking everything, but it's just our ability to try to continue to test, and that really lends into Beta Test Tuesday. I mean, that's really what we're going to do with that, is bring the ideas to the table that might be a little more out there that maybe people wouldn't right away be apt to want to try. And that's where you go with those small batches, people like it, and then you can scale it up and have it as a mainstay in the tap room.
Well, you can't give us a lead of going way off the rails without giving us an example.
Ooh, well, when did I go way off the rails? I'm trying to think. IPA wise, we once did a white chocolate IPA.
Yeah.
Okay, all right. Let's talk about that for a moment.
That doesn't sound like a plan, like a good, like. How drunk were you at this time, or were you abiding by other forms of stimulants?
Shamefully, I think I might have been sober at the moment, but no, it wasn't awful, though. I don't think it's something that's like you go back to the well again for.
Now, I will say the chocolate morsels that were used in the fermenter, you take those out and try them. That was an interesting flavor, to say the least.
Yeah. So like that being like a wild idea, or I don't know. I'm like drawing a blank on something else at the moment, but we've gone to some dark places in that time, so I had to even reel myself in.
All right. Well, I'm going to pass it over to Nick while I try to see if there's a white chocolate IPA in the market.
I want to say, if it's bottled, let me know. I'll even go try to go get it. Let's go back to the brewery, the process of getting it built out to where it is, and hopefully in the next very soon, couple months, hopefully, maybe even sooner, hopefully sooner. Who have been some of your biggest supporters throughout this? You guys had mentioned you guys are like friends from high school. Have there been family member? Who would you tell first that you were going to open up a brewery in Chesterfield? Who have been like your biggest supporters throughout all this?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. Obviously, our family and friends, especially in this area, have been fantastic. We actually originally had started with a third partner. He's been a very big supporter of us throughout.
Shout out to Brad. Unfortunately, just circumstances. Personally, he just said, "Hey guys, I'm not able to go along the ride with you, but I want to be as much of a part of it as possible." And we've continued to, keep him. If you actually look at the logo, I don't know how close I can get this, but
there you go.
Yeah.
Up here at the top, there are 3 people standing on the mountain, and he is one of the 3.
Yeah. So
So yeah, I mean, that's been a big one. Professionally speaking, the brewing community has been unbelievable around here. Whether it's, I actually live in St. Clair Shores now. So Copper Hop, Baffin, frequent, especially, the owners over there have been fantastic.
Actually, early on, we spoke with Ray Sherwood, and he was very pivotal helping us like even put together a business plan. So yeah, we've had not just like friends and family, but people in the industry like really embrace us and in a way just kind of like guide us along this path. So it was important to us to just talk to the people who did it already, and then ensure that like what it is we're doing is something that we're well versed in.
Cool.
Ray is definitely when you get him talking, he likes to keep going. And definitely someone I got a chance to be on another podcast. It was not beer related, but it was a beer show. And I got to be on a podcast with him, and I believe it was Travis Fritz, and they did like a beer trivia question. And I'm like, what the fuck are you asking me for? I don't know this stuff. Like, oh, hey, Ray Sherwood, decade plus in the industry, Travis Fritz, German brewer. And I'm like sitting here like, so let's kind of get to know you guys a little bit more personally, and then I'm going to hand it off to Dan. When you walk into a brewery, and this is going to be for both of you, what beer are you looking to try first? What style, what brand, what are you looking for?
I look for an ESB if you got it, or Kolsch if you do, and then after that, like I look for something high in gravity.
For me, I'm big into browns.
Ken.
There you go, Ken.
Brown ale. So for me, that was kind of that's usually my draw. I'll go in and try to find that. Early on, it was definitely I go into a place try to try any Hefeweizen that I can, German beers. Unfortunately, I feel like more recently I have not found any that have really blown me away. So either my palate's changing or they're just not as good. But yeah, those are kind of my go-tos there.
I don't want to spoil it, so I won't go too far into the knowledge, but I know there is a brewery out in the west side of the state called Nitzigen. It's like Knitzigen. I think there's an extra N in there, maybe a 4. I don't know. I apologize. I know the new head brewer listens to the show. I would expect some amazing German beers out of that brewery, seeing as the dude was a head brewer in Germany up until 2 months ago. So one thing I would suggest, not to bring people away from you guys or even our sponsor, North Center Brewing over in Northville, Michigan, just south of Baseline Road over on North Center Road. Go say hi to Kevin and Cody.
Hey, Kevin, if you're watching.
He helped us along this way as well. We interviewed him as well.
Kevin helped out. Way to go, Kevin. But yeah, I feel like that's going to be a really big surprise because you don't get a chance trying to compete in the industry. German style, true to style beers are not what's selling these days, and it sucks. We had Travis on a handful of times, and we've pretty much been with Travis for the entire M43 journey. Because the first time we had him on, as we've mentioned, was the second batch ever of M43, and not like the second batch, like the second time he made it, we had it. And ever since then, obviously, it's exploded. It's exploded to New England, and then you have seltzers, and everyone's making a seltzer. You have a lot of breweries making non-alcoholic options at this time, like a standard hop water. So your true to style beers, your ESBs, your browns, like a standard European style brown, is so hard to find these days. So I would hope that when we can get back out, we can post COVID, or at least patio seating, that's not freezing your ass off. It's not like I can go into 81 degree weather, Dan.
Sorry.
As I see you and your wife posting photo after photo of brewery after brewery you go to. But yeah, I would love to start seeing a lot more true to style beers, but I want to pass it off to Dan because I think Dan's got a question for you.
I do. So first off, since we're talking about German beers, I know it's going to get asked by someone, do you plan on making an alt beer anytime in the future?
I didn't say it.
And then also, because I love that you guys are doing all these things with these stouts, because there are not many breweries these days. It's like pulling teeth to get one while you're fighting through 22 IPAs that they have on tap at the same time. When you guys plan on starting to do some barrel aging Is that going to come in down the road, or what are your plans?
Yeah, that's almost like a timing issue. It's like make sure we can keep that walk-in filled up, and then once we're head above water, we'll start to look at barrel purchasing, because that is something that like both interests Eric and I. So as soon as possible, but we don't want to rush towards it though.
Yeah, we've heard, some stories, especially specifically one from Joe at Baffin. He had mentioned, he's like, yeah, we were just starting out. We had mango and we had thrown it in a barrel, and then we ran out of beer. And I was like, I needed that beer right then, but I didn't have it. So, just a lesson learned from a lot of the folks we talked to, like, don't get into it too early, but it's definitely something we're super interested in.
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you who are listening, because I did get a message a week and a half ago, because Baffin actually won March Draftness 2020, that existed, and the party will still happen. We're just kind of waiting. It's probably going to be a patio party sometime in the late spring, early summer. So just stay tuned. We're getting there. I promise we're not ripping you off. We've already done 3 keg parties in a row, so we're not like, we're not going to do it anymore.
And we can throw 2 at the same time when they win 2021. So make it easy.
Unless I get to they are again forcefully retired, but unless we get to 128 breweries, in which I've increased the amount of breweries, they are retired until then. Because we hopped from 32 to 64 pretty fast, and I wanted to make sure that
you gonna hang the jersey in the rafters now, or
well, hanging in the rafters. But everyone is always confused about why they win so often. Without like, if you go into Baffin and you see their mug club looks a lot like Dark Horse's mug club with the amount of mugs, except you have to drink to get into Baffin's mug club. Right. You don't have to drink to get into Dark. So the amount of mugs up there each represent, I believe it's like 150 pints minimum. So that's before you get the mug. Mm-hmm. So that they have some very rabid fans over there. So there was also the whole Filipino invasion of one of our our votes between Blake's and it was the 2019 winners, Brewery 424. Because the marketing director of Blake's just happened to be from the Philippines, and she shared it on her public Facebook. Oh, that's awesome. That's I can't fault them for that. Like, that's the whole point. Like, it's one of those things. But hopefully in 2022, when you guys are open, you'll be part of the March Draftness, which we're going to start working on and announcing people here soon. Hopefully getting a full 64. I know a lot of people don't have necessarily the time or effort to get into a whole online battle. But I want to bring it over to Rob, because I know Rob's got a question for you.
Yeah, now I know for it being Chesterfield, and there's always the ongoing joke that I consider everything beyond M59 up north.
Bingo square.
It's a bit far for me to go up there on a regular basis, but definitely those mugs are awesome, and I'd love to get a hold of one of those. But Ken kind of started talking about mug clubs, and I was interested to hear you guys talk about your guys' mug club, because usually what I'm used to seeing with a brewery that opens and has a mug club, that it's just basically a free-for-all. That everybody, just anybody, you want a mug, you get a mug, you get a mug, everybody gets a mug. But you guys are doing it a little bit differently and having a limit to it. And I guess talk about that, and also with, I guess, a little bit of the unique structure that you're doing, I kind of feel in a Baffin way, in terms of like free renewals that I was recently reading about.
Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit of a combo pack. In terms of the mugs, it was one thing that him and I had always talked about, and obviously for how much we had frequented Baffin and meeting with with Joe and Evan up there. One thing we were like, hey, this is fantastic. Like, these guys have all these mug club members. It's just a testament to the number of people that go in there. But for us, we were kind of like, I don't know that we necessarily want that. I mean, you want that, we wanted our mug club to feel a little bit exclusive.
Exclusivity is important.
So I think for us, it was kind of like, find a happy medium in terms of, actual mugs. Obviously, specifically for the Kickstarter, just throwing some lifetime mugs in there, but then the remainder of those will just be annual. And yeah, the idea of, the annual visits, that's another, help from a phone a friend, Ryan over at Copper Hop. Similar strategy. He was like, hey, this is what we're kind of thinking. And we kind of like the idea, because, obviously, like, yeah, these mugs are great. And, you see a lot of times where people will, they'll go into a place, they'll get a mug because they really like the beer, and then they just don't end up going back. And so it was like, what can we do to kind of entice people to kind of come back and continue to be there on a regular basis? And offering up that free renewal was just something where we're like, hey, you know what? If you come here often enough and you use it, we want you in here. We want you drinking out of it. I mean, it's
a reward for being loyal to the brand, which like it was important that we also thank them for like not having to pay a renewal fee. So it's a win-win for both parties, I think.
Yeah. Do you think that there should be more breweries that do things like that? Because, there's those that are out there that will definitely do the annual memberships and everyone continues to sign up. But does it feel like it's more of I don't want to say cash grab because that just sounds so fucking rude. But, it's like when you pay your annual membership and you keep getting your annual membership, but you keep showing up, that as you're looking for is like that 40 plus visits throughout the year. Do you think that should be kind of the structure that breweries should kind of move towards instead of just throwing money at it every year?
I think it's a little bit, I mean, it varies on, what type of brewery you are, your size. I mean, all that stuff kind of plays into it. I mean, like I said, specifically for us, because of the fact that you're looking at, only having a certain number of them and them being somewhat coveted, in terms of availability. But again, like you just mentioned, I mean, if you're a regular customer and you're coming in here all the time, I mean, that's the least I can do to reward you in terms of that is to waive that fee. I mean, obviously, yes, it's nice to have that, whether it's the people that, don't end up renewing or they don't meet that goal. And then you do get a little bit of that bump and increase, in terms of people buying the annual membership. But again, I mean, what we're trying to create here in terms of that community feel is, hey, if you come in a lot and you're a loyal customer to us, like we want to be able to appreciate you in a way that, is worthy of your time and your money coming in,
And on top of that, like there's a certain amount of like upside of like keeping it like contained, where like the group itself starts to grow closer together when you are like truly having like the same repeated customers, and you want to create an atmosphere those people start to become friends themselves, and then that allows us to do something like private parties and events for those people who are already like associated with one another being part of the club, and then give them a special day to do something that's really unique, where if we had 2,000 mugs on the wall, it'd be no way we could offer that to people,
Right. And I got one more. This one is to you, Deven, which I'm sure you are probably aware. There are not a whole lot of black head brewers that are in the industry. Right. And, it is a huge issue that we have had in the craft beer community, where we are lacking that diversity in both breweries and consumers. And I'm curious from your standpoint, what do you think that we need to do to increase those numbers, whether it be consumers and owners? And I guess kind of a follow-up with that is that with the Black is Beautiful initiative that happened last year, that is going to be something that is going to be ongoing throughout a lot of the breweries that are in our area. And I'm curious if that is something that you would look towards pushing, like a beer or something to that effect, from what can come from Arctic Circle.
Yeah. So actually, earlier today, I saw on the Craft Beer Professionals page that someone asked a question about how is it that we can be better for like introducing more people of color into the craft beer industry, to which I ended up replying with 3 answers ago. One, we got to continue to highlight those who are doing this, because the voice needs to be magnified a little bit, because it is a not just a unique thing, but it is someone who probably needs the extra credibility from the people who have done it before. And then secondarily, I mentioned it's important that you then find community outreach that is zeroed in on people of color as well. So you're not only just being a representative of the people, but then you're giving back to them, and in hopes that they will then acknowledge the brand and come and check you out. If no other reason than I wanted to see what a brewery actually looks like, because someone like myself is now in there. And I know Eric and I have put around some early on ideas about like charity work and foundation sorts of things. I don't want to like pitch any ideas out there too soon, but yes, it's important to be face forward with the consumer, and being the brewer here, I want to like stand in that light and voice my story along the way.
Okay. All right. Ken, back to you.
So we are ending. I mean, it's been 45 minutes. It's crazy. We got a couple more questions. We're gonna do the final kind of circle. Have everyone ask a final question. Have you guys the opportunity to pitch your kickstand. That's brewery kickstart.
Yeah.
Um,
That was a sessionable stout there, Ken.
Right. All right. What are you doing?
well, that was a sessionable stout and goes and two of these. So I'm
Okay,
there you-
well,
there you
all
go.
right, there you
I'm
go.
feeling a
Jeez.
little nice right now. But we're gonna start with Nick and head it to Dan right after. Nick, what's your final question for these two
All right.
gentlemen?
All right. To get to know you guys better, guilty pleasure beer that's in your fridge right now, or if you had to get a something like PBR, hams, whatever. What's your guilty pleasure?
I like Blue Light. That's my That's the
Ooh.
one I go to. I'm a Blue Light fan.
Mostly Canadian.
Okay.
Devin right there. I tell you what, if I go to a bar and my choices are yellow and I see a Molson, I will gravitate right towards that Molson, like ready to go.
Yeah.
I'll skip past the Coors Light, the Millers, the bottles. I'm like, all right, let's do a pitcher of Molson for $7.
I'm about to say I can get on the Blue Light a little bit, so that's cool. That's cool. That's cool. That's cool too. So
I'll go for other Canadian lagers, but like that's my first choice is to go right towards that beer. But
go towards Molson. Yeah.
yeah, go towards Molson. That's me at the Ritz for sure. Speaking of the Ritz, I used to go with Dan all the time to the Ritz. What's your final
we're
question?
Slumming it down there. So I'm going to go the opposite of Nick. If you guys had to pick one beer that should be removed from existence because it doesn't deserve to be like available to drink, what would it be?
Damn.
Could it be this peach brown
Yeah.
sugar white chocolate sour milkshake IPA I found when I was searching for
What?
white chocolate peach brown sugar white chocolate sour milkshake IPA?
Oh my God.
All right, who's that brewery? I'm gonna send them a message.
That's Weldworks, by the way. They canned that beer, and it's a kettle sour New England double IPA.
Oh, my
Jesus.
goodness. Okay. Well.
I
Draw the
can't
line.
really think of anything like off the top of my head though. Like I have like this starting point whenever like I have coconut in the beer. It just reminds me of my hair shampoo, and it's always like a immediate deterrent for me. So like a coconut anything is just like
Yeah.
I'm going to agree. Coconut shouldn't be in any beer whatsoever.
Yeah. I was gonna say I agree with him. That's always my biggest sticking point. I'm like, it smells like suntan lotion. I can't get past that. It's just an initial, it's just something about it.
Some Hawaiian tropic.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Banana boat.
Banana boat.
Nice.
Copper tone. Stop.
Robert.
All right. Sticking kind of in that, not necessarily the get rid of area, but obviously you guys have traveled a bit to try some beers in different places, and probably had some mailed some way, shape, or form. Give me a brewery that you wish was distributed here in Michigan.
There's a couple in Connecticut that I'm like blanking on names. But yeah, like I have a connect out in Connecticut. Man, he has graced me with a couple of things, and I wish I can remember the name of the breweries. But like I feel like that's obviously a hotbed. But then we just don't get anything out this side of the country.
Yeah. For me, I spent a lot of time in Charlotte for the other job that I have, and in reference to that, Birdsong down there in Charlotte.
I love Birdsong.
Love their beers. It actually was crazy the first time I was in there. The bartender behind the bar was like, "Oh, I'm from Michigan," and then it was just like from there, he's like, "All right, we got this stuff in the back, and we got this and that," and I just I ended up spending like 2 hours there. Luckily, work trip, Uber's paid for, so just had myself a good time. But yeah, it was Birdsong's awesome.
Well, if the next time you're in Charlotte, Salud Beer Co. If you've ever been there, it is a beer store, and the owner is from Michigan. And
Nice.
I saw that because he had a Kunin sticker, and I'm like, who has a Kunin
I was
sticker?
gonna say,
Right,
you're from Michigan.
long way
No offense to Kunin, but you're not, widely distro. Therefore, I don't expect your sticker in a random North Carolina beer store. But they're set up like 8 degrees, so you can drink in there while you shop.
Cool. Okay.
So, I mean, not necessarily now with COVID and all, but definitely go check out Salud for sure the next time you're in Charlotte. For me, my favorite brewery when I was there, and I'll tell everyone this, Noda. I loved Noto when I went there.
Yeah, I did. The sad part was I went there. I wanted to do, a flight to get a taste of everything. And the day that I went, they were actually doing Girl Scout cookie flight. So that's the only thing I could get. But then after that, I just was like, all right, just get me. I was like, what's your most popular beer? And then just tried a few. But yeah, Noto was great too.
Yeah, Noto, I got a chance to be in Charlotte for a handful of days, and I was so happy I was able to do it. The same with Asheville too, because obviously Asheville is such a great place. But if you get a chance and you're there for a few days and you could take a day off, Spartanburg, South Carolina, is another really interesting craft beer a hotbed for sure.
Okay.
They've got, I think, 20 or so breweries in the area. I remember one, they served the flights in a lunchbox. And I'm like, how many people close the lunchbox and carry it, not even thinking? And she's like, it happens about once or twice a day. So, yeah, it's because I was in Spartanburg, and at that point I was like, should I go to Asheville or Charlotte? It was the same drive to both. And I was like, you know what, I'm just going to stay in Spartanburg, and sure enough, it was a great choice. So my final question to you guys, as we round out, and I'll let you guys plug all of your socials, your Kickstarter, not stand, starter. I guess, what is the one thing you wish you could tell yourselves back in 2019? What is the one thing you wish you could say? COVID unrelated. Let's pretend that didn't exist. What is the one thing you wish you could go back and tell yourselves when you first looked at each other and like, we should start a brewery?
For me, it'll probably be more patient. Everyone forewarned us that like these things will slow roll a little bit getting out the gate, and that was the case. And then you add on top of the world pandemic, so yeah, I think be patient and not let your anxiety drive you crazy.
Yeah, I definitely think that was a good one. Obviously, the one adage you hear all the time, and obviously it still holds true, is the idea that whatever you budget, just go ahead and add, a lot on. I think that was something where, obviously coming into this, we came into it trying to, get in as low in terms of a budget as we could. And as, time goes on, and again, not COVID related, but, that is hurting us too. It's just, the idea that everything that you used to be able to do normally, it just costs more, whether it's buying drywall or wood or, anything, everything costs more now. And so I think that's even more of a testament to it. It's just that idea of, more, it takes a lot of money.
All right, guys, your elevator pitch. Tell us where we can find you, where you guys are located. Give us all that information. Socials, address.
All right. So, so it's 27663 23 Mile Road, northeast corner. We've got Target right there. So that's a good place to.
Hard to miss the Target.
Yeah, hard to miss the Target. So right there in that complex. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, AC Brewing Co., also AC Brewing Co. on Twitter. We just started a YouTube page, Arctic Circle Brewing Company, so that we can go ahead and post all of our Tuesday beta test videos onto there.
Look for the first episode this coming Tuesday.
Yep, first episode. And then, in terms of the Kickstarter, obviously, we were so grateful. The fact that we were able to hit that goal in such a short period of time really blew us away. So for us now, it was kind of like, hey, you know what, let's go ahead and try to push this a little bit. So actually right before this started, we went ahead and added some new rewards, some new merchandise, more limited edition stuff. As Deven showed earlier, the Tuesday beta test t-shirt, some new Yeti logo that we kind of debuted on our socials last week. So just trying to do that. We did open a few 25 additional lifetime mugs just to try to help get us there. But yeah, again, every little bit counts. And for us, we're just blessed to, have the support of the, friends, family, community, everybody out there that's really been behind us. And it's really been an awesome ride so far. And we're just excited, that we're finally at the stage of, behind us, you can see drywall. And on Monday when we were here, there was no drywall. So it's been an incredible ride so far. And we're just looking forward to, finally getting open for business.
I definitely have my eyes on those wooden coasters for sure. So I
The
will
wooden
be-
coasters, actually, that's cool. That was funny you say that. So, Craft Beer Professionals Facebook group. So I, signed up or whatever. They sent me a box, and actually that was in there. And immediately when I got that, I told him, I was like, we got to have that as one
Gotta
of the
add to
rewards.
the-
Like people, it's just like such a cool thing.
I'm gonna have to talk to Andrew over there, the guy from Secret Hopper who runs the Craft Beer Professionals group, because I want that.
I want that
it
buddy.
came From, it was.
I just get yelled at by him.
Yeah, it was such a cool thing. I saw it and immediately reached out to them on through email and was like, hey, I'm gonna put this as one of my Kickstarter things, and they're like, great, we'll get you some mock-ups and send us your logo, and we thought it was just kind of a unique thing to have on there.
All right, well, that's going to do it. The Michigan Series Better on Draft podcast, Arctic Circle Brewing. We appreciate you guys coming. Definitely go check them out. Their goal is to open in April, but don't hold them to that. We obviously have a giant world-ass pandemic going on. So we will be right back. For those of you listening to the podcast, that's the end of the podcast. The news, if you're listening live, will be next in about 10 minutes or so, 8:05 Eastern. So, Matt, what you think of your beer? We think it's Better on Draft. Have a good night.
I thank you guys for having us on.
Yeah, thank you so much, guys.